Did you know that there are only 6 teams who have the potential to win the Super Bowl this year? I identified the last 15 Super Bowl winners and I found 5 identities that you need to have in order to win one. Identity number 1, a generational defense. Out of the 15 Super Bowl winners, there are only 3 teams who share this identity. The 2013-2014 Seattle Seahawks, aka the Legion of Boom, 2015-2016 Denver Broncos, and the 2008 and 2009 Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, the name Legion of Boom speaks for itself. They had all-pro prime Richard Sherman, safety Earl Thomas, and one of the most feared men in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball, safety Cam Chancellor. You also had at linebacker all-pro Bobby Wagner, Bruce Irvin, and KJ Wright, who were also 2 stellar linebackers. This was a defense that made every quarterback's life a living hell. I mean, we were supposed to get an amazing Super Bowl that year. Number 1 offense versus number 1 defense, and it was an awful game. I mean, they beat the number 1 offense in the NFL 43-8. Now, the Denver Broncos defense was also amazing in its own right. Geriatric Peyton Manning was playing his last season in the NFL, and he wasn't the same old Peyton Manning as we usually saw. He was basically seen as a smart game manager. Their defense were the real stars of this team. You had a mean lockdown cornerback and Aqib Talib, and the even better but the quiet assassin Chris Harris Jr. At safety was a tough TJ Ward. Then you had prime Von Miller and the aging but still very effective legend DeMarcus Ware. Throw in defensive end Malik Jackson, who was also a vital part of this unit as well. And you have a defense that held Tom Brady to 18 points, Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers to 16, and only allowed 10 points to the best offense in the NFL in the Super Bowl, the Carolina Panthers led by MVP Cam Newton. Now that we are halfway through the season, does any team fit this identity? And you'd be surprised to know that there is one, and it's the Baltimore Ravens. Their stats are very convincing of a defense that can carry a team to a Super Bowl, and they even have superstar players at every level. Safety Kyle Hamilton, cornerback Marlon Humphrey, linebacker Roquan Smith, and defensive tackle Justin Madu BK. Hopefully I said his name correctly. They've been bested a couple times this season, but holding the Browns and the Lions to a total of 9 points is a sign that you have a great defense that can carry your team to a Super Bowl victory. Identity number 2, GOAT quarterback. This is the most popular identity and easiest to answer. Does your team have a GOAT quarterback? Well, 8 out of the 15 Super Bowl winners did. And yes, GOAT does mean greatest of all time, but in this sense, I like the name of the identity so much that you have to be a top 10 quarterback of all time to be in this category. And we have Tom Brady 4 times, Patrick Mahomes 2 times, Aaron Rodgers once, and Drew Brees once. And all of those guys are top 10 quarterbacks of all time in my opinion. Now, does any team fit this identity besides the Kansas City Chiefs? Not a chance. There are a lot of amazing quarterbacks in the NFL, but when we talk about the GOATed quarterbacks, Mahomes is leagues above everybody else at this point. Identity number 3, miracles. Obviously, we know which team I'm talking about here. The 2017-2018 Philadelphia Eagles. The QB who was supposed to be MVP that year goes down with a season-ending injury, and your backup quarterback Nick Foles steps in and gives you the best 3-game stretch of his entire career, and this is against 3 really good playoff teams. And he even outdueled the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, in the Super Bowl. This was the definition of a miracle run, and I don't think we will see a playoff run any crazier than what the Eagles did. Now, trying to find a miracle team this year will be close to impossible. I mean, it only happened one time in the last 15 seasons. My best bet will be to look at storylines this season and the betting odds of every team's chances to win a Super Bowl. And there is one team that comes to mind, the New York Jets. Think about it. You make a blockbuster trade for Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. The team all looks to blend in so well with him in Hard Knocks, and the first game of the season, he tears his Achilles. And the Jets are left hopeless as the guy that was denounced last season has to come in and potentially save this team. And even though it's super ugly on offense right now, Zach Wilson is keeping this team afloat at a positive 4-3 record. While all of this is going on, Aaron Rodgers is slowly making the greatest recovery we've ever seen from an Achilles injury. It's becoming so good that he could possibly return in the regular season. So imagine the Jets, who are currently plus 8,500 in betting odds to win the Super Bowl, pull off the greatest miracle we've ever seen, with Aaron Rodgers coming back and leading the Jets to a Super Bowl. Identity number 4, offensive juggernaut. Do you have an offensive weapon or offense that is damn near unstoppable? Well, that's what the 2021 Rams and 2012 Ravens had. In 2021, Cooper Kupp became just the 4th wide receiver ever to win the Triple Crown, which just means leading the NFL in receptions, touchdowns, and receiving yards. and he was only 17 yards off the receiving yard record that season. And honestly, this was probably the greatest wide receiver season we've ever seen. And he continued that success into the playoffs. In the 4 games they played, he averaged 8 receptions, 119 yards, and a touchdown and a half. He even got 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Cooper Kupp was insanely clutch, damn near unguardable, and was making play after play for this Rams team. Now, Joe Flacco's situation is very unique. His regular season performance was forgettable, but his 4 playoff games might be the greatest playoff stretch by a QB in NFL history. In 4 games, he had 1,140 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. There's a reason he has a nickname, January Joe. In 2023, offenses are more talented than ever due to the huge pool of talented players on offense. It seems like you need at least one elite wide receiver on your team to be a competitive offense. And this season, there are about 3 teams that are offensive juggernauts in my opinion. The Philadelphia Eagles, Detroit Lions, and the Miami Dolphins. The Eagles have the best offensive line in the league when healthy, a damn near 100% success rate play, and A.J. Brown, who just set the record for most consecutive games with 125 receiving yards. Now, the Dolphins have the fastest team ever. They have speed everywhere, and I mean speed. And that includes Tyreek Hill, who is the fastest player in NFL history in my opinion, and is currently on pace to break the record for most receiving yards in a season. Now, the Detroit Lions, you may scratch your head, but I believe they are just as dangerous as these 2 other teams. Offensive coordinator Ben Johnson is one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. Quarterback Jared Goff is playing his best ball ever. The offensive line is top 5. Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs are becoming massive playmakers to this Lions offense. And of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown seems to always be wide open. And the most important aspect of this team is they are extremely confident. Dan Campbell believes in his players and staff 100%, and that is a dangerous combination for any NFL team. Identity number 5, a genius game plan. Super Bowl 46 saw the New York Giants beating the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl for the 2nd time in the last 5 years. I could easily say, just get an Eli Manning in the playoffs, since he's a legend in the postseason. But I want to give their head coach Tom Coughlin the credit he deserves, because he basically had a perfect game plan for every team they faced. I won't go deeper into that because that's a separate video of its own. The question is there any team left that I didn't mention that has a genius coach? And of course there is. You ever heard of Kyle Shanahan? The 49ers have created a foolproof offensive system that allows for any quarterback to step in and perform like a competent quarterback. Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy has convinced the world that he is an elite talent. Even Jimmy Garoppolo fooled everyone into believing he was a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's safe to say the system is that good. So just to recap, there are 5 identities that your team needs to have, and if you don't have one of them, you're not winning the Super Bowl this year. And the only 6 teams to share one of these 5 identities are the Ravens, Chiefs, Eagles, Dolphins, Lions, and the Jets. So if you're not a fan of those 6 teams, I'm sorry to say, but it's just not your year. If you enjoyed the video, cool. Till next time, Sports Nerd Marty is out.